I'd like to welcome everybody to tonight's debate. Before we start, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. If we can all stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Be seated. Again, thank you for coming to tonight's debate. I'd like to thank Channel 3 for sponsoring this, putting this on. My name is Mike Wenta. I currently serve as a Fayette County Chair for the Republican Party. To start this off, I'm going to have City Councilman Clarence Werner. Please introduce yourself and why you feel you should be mayor of Connersville.
Good evening. My name is Clarence Werner, City of Connersville, obviously. My partner is sitting there, Tamika. I have 5 children. I feel that Connersville needs a change and a guiding direction in saving tax dollar money.
Thank you. Mayor.
Well, good evening. My name is Chad Frank. I am the current mayor serving my first term. I've been a Republican ever since I registered to vote at 18, and I'm the only candidate that has asked for a Republican ticket in the last 2 elections. I grew up in a family business started by my parents, John and Joyce Frank, which taught me hard work, responsibility, and strong work ethics, which I carry to this day. Entrepreneurism is something I love, and growing up with that experience helped me start my first business venture in my early 20s. Taking an idea and turning it into a way of living was one of the most challenging undertakings of my life. The lessons learned from that venture has helped me now as we find creative ways to grow our community. Since 1980, we have witnessed a steady population decline in our community, which we cannot sustain any longer. The following list is lengthy, so for time's sake, I'm going to shorten it with bullet points. In the last 3 years, look at the new growth we've seen in our community. RDI, Wings, etc., $2 Generals, Domino's, Dunkin' Donuts, Reed Hospital, Opportunity Drive Commercial Development, Autumn Trace Communities, Phoenix investors purchased the old Vistion building, Pavy's grocery store. What have we accomplished in the last 3 years? And I'm going to shorten this because we might talk about some of them later with our department heads. The first thing we did was increase our social media presence. We started 2 minutes with the mayor, Connersville job postings. Each department now has a social media account. The street department didn't even have one, and now we are actively using those to get information out quickly to the community. We updated the city website. We started the community calendar. Accomplishments that focus on growth. We established a workforce development committee, striving for change. We created the first employee handbook. We created the planting guide. We created the Opportunity Zone marketing strategy, which is currently under development right now. We finished a comprehensive plan. We created a hotel feasibility study. We did a housing study. We funded redevelopment commission from $35,000 when I first took over to $1.6 million. We signed up for Make My Move. We passed a park protection ordinance with the help of Jabin Collins. We passed a transient dealer solicitor ordinance with the help of Jabin Collins as well. We hired a community coordinator. We updated all the inside of City Hall with mostly donations through time and materials and grants, making it a more business-friendly environment. We replaced the old worn-out shutters on City Hall with pilasters, and we are painting the entire City Hall this spring, all with grant money. We increased the security entrance at City Hall with cameras and key fobs. We added 88 entrances to City Hall and the police station. We hired Adam Stone as our controller to help us understand the government finances better. We added a city engineer in the budget. We budgeted money for a sidewalk replacement match program, which will be starting this spring. We got the walking path to Walmart. We have a full-time ordinance enforcer. We created a split supervisor between the streets and utilities. We added high-speed Wi-Fi in the city parking lot and here in Roberts Park. We got Celebration of the Ville up and running, Farm to Table, Christmas in the Park, historic downtown Winterfest. We built a working relationship with the Whitewater Valley Railroad and completed a landscaping project in front of their station, which looks absolutely beautiful with the help of the Fayette County Soil and Water Conservation. We are getting all new radios for our departments so they can communicate with one another. New and up and coming projects. Market Street Plaza, getting ready to start. The J. Long Memorial 2nd Street Park, getting ready to start. The Wildflower Pollinator Program, we're getting ready to start that right now. We're removing the invasive species of Bradford pears along Western Avenue, and we're going to replace with a native species. The new downtown sidewalks, we're adding crossing paths and the mulch strips. We're adding landscaping, and we're going to put string lights all down Central Avenue. We were awarded the HELP grant. We're planning to use some of those dollars to fix River's Edge so we can get more grant opportunities. We want to put an Office Park walking path, a fitness court, update the basketball court, update playground. Right here in Roberts Park, we're looking to add a skate park, a pump track, updated playground, remodel a bathroom for year-round use, a 35-acre, 3-level mountain bike course. That's just a few of the things we've done in the last 3 years, and I have a complete list with each department, but I'm sure we'll get into them as the night goes along. I don't want to take too much time.
Thank you for your introduction. The rules before we go forward, this is a debate. There's no time limit on your response to your answer. And what I say is nothing below the belt. Keep it clean. Remember, we're all friends here. The first question will go to Mayor Frank. I guess I am going to use your title. What are your ideas for growing the city? I think you kind of covered some of this. Generating jobs and improving quality of life in the city of Connersville.
I just read an entire list of things we're doing that. The past 3 years, we have focused nothing on what was called placemaking. Used to, the model was people would follow jobs. People don't follow jobs anymore. Jobs follow people. People move to communities for a lifestyle, and then we'll look for jobs. So we are focused on creating a place where people want to live and work. One of the things I focused on heavily, when we did our comprehensive plan, we was out at the high school. I was talking to the high school kids, and I said, how many times do you hear people like me come to you and say, we want you to come back after high school and live in our community? And they all raise their hand. I said, how many of you have heard me come and say, what do you want to look like? Not one of them raised their hand. So our goal is to create opportunities, just like the ones I read, so that when kids graduate, they want to live here.
Thank you. Councilman Werner?
Repeat the question, please.
Okay. What are your ideas for growing the city, generating jobs, and improving quality of life in the city of Connersville?
Quality of life can be improved by many different things. A lot of things that the current mayor has expressed has been grant-oriented. There's a lot of things that can be done by personnel in the city. Cleaning up Connersville would invite people more to come to this city. Obviously, like he said, they're not coming here for jobs because there's no jobs here readily available at this time. If we invite people to come here, then there's going to be more opportunity to come here, and more people want to come here to bring their business here. So I think firsthand we need to take a look at our city and what's wrong with it and what we're doing to increase the livability here and make it more inviting.
Okay. Thank you.
There are jobs available here. There's Howden looking for employees. There's Keener's looking for employees. There's a lot of people looking for employees, so there are jobs here. We have to continue investing in placemaking, though, so people want to move here so they can fill those jobs. I meet with employers regularly, and every one of them tell me, we have jobs available. We need people to come out for these jobs. So they are available. We need people to move here. The population decline has hurt us, and that's why we're investing in all these projects that we've done to invest in placemaking so people will want to move here.
Thank you. Clarence?
Well, that is true. There is a small amount of jobs here, but nothing like what we had in the past. The days of Vistion have gone by, and we've lost many jobs through that area. I mean, there's jobs at all the restaurants and convenience stores. Keener's always had openings for their jobs. That's been going on for years. That's pretty much goes without saying.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. Move on to the next question. 911 dispatch is currently struggling financially. As mayor, what are your thoughts as to resolve the situation? Councilman Werner.
Well, first of all, we need to work together as a county and a city to figure out what the issues with that. Financially, it's a struggle with our system because all the agencies around us pay more money. So we have to figure out how we can get more money to feed into that 911 system, which is the priority system in Fayette County, in Connersville. And I think we need to work closer with the county to get this solved.
Okay. Yeah.
Again, it's growth. We must grow. The population decline has hurt the county budget. It's hurt the city budget. So if you look at dispatch, we house dispatch in City Hall, and the monies come through a state cell phone fee that everyone pays, and the county uses that to pay dispatch. The city dumps $125,000 on top of that to help fund dispatch. So we do fund dispatch on top of the county fees, but it's going to take some more. But with a declining budget, we have to grow.
Okay. Clarence, anything?
Like I said, the only thing that, again, with the mayor is we have to grow, obviously, but how are you going to get people here that we don't have any amenities here? We have to get amenities here for people to come here. We're number 10, we're in the top 10 cities of worst places to live. We have to change that.
Mayor.
That's why we're building a skate park, a fitness park, a pump track, a mountain bike course, creating amenities. We've talked about some of these amenities with college kids and even professors. They can't wait to get this because they will come here. That is a draw. So it is for our community. It's for all ages. Every one of those activities covers from a young toddler to an older adult. Anyone can partake in these, and it's for health and fitness. We are the worst county not the worst, we used to be the worst for the fitness factor, fitness rating in the state. Those are all projects to help out with that, and they're all placemaking activities as well.
Thank you. I'm part of that fitness problem. 911 also has a difficult time retaining, this is for the mayor. 911 has a difficult time retaining staff. What can be done to help retain these important employees?
Well, like Councilman Werner said, they do need to increase the pay. There's no question about that. They are severely underpaid compared to other dispatchers around. So there has to be find ways to cover the pay disparities in the pay. I'm not for sure about the work environment. The county manages all that, but they are in City Hall, so they work next to the police department. So there's a lot that can be done with pay. I think that's a place to start.
Councilman?
I'm just going to end up having to echo the mayor's words on that. The pay has to increase. This is a training facility for 911 systems. The director right now trains people, and then they go to Rushville or Greensburg. Even Liberty pays more than we do. We have to come off with some money and figure out how to do that without hurting the budget.
I forgot where we were at now. Who started that? Who took that question first?
Me. You asked me the last one first.
You had anything to rebuttal for?
You just asked me to dispatch. We answered the same question, same
Okay.
way.
All right. If you don't have anything to say, then we'll move on. Getting old. As many current city firefighters near retirement, what can be done to attract experienced firefighters to fill the empty positions? And that is in no way a slam on our current city fire department. They do a great job. The chief is doing a fantastic job with his training. This is just a question of what we can do to attract, firefighters to help speed the process along.
Me first?
Yes, sir.
Okay. First of all, Chief Jones has done a fantastic job. He had quite the task on hand because he came in without an assistant chief. I don't remember how long we went without an assistant chief, but the assistant chief is very critical to the training operations of the fire department. So one of the first things we want to do was get an assistant chief in place, which we did. And since we got the assistant chief in place, our training has gone through the roof. I mean, they do a fantastic job. You can see them posting on Facebook all the training they do. The training is very critical, but training is just a piece of the puzzle. One of the other goals we have is replacing worn out vehicles, implementing a long-term replacement schedule, and we're replacing a lot of equipment through some of the ARP money we received from the federal government for Scott, because he needs generators, he needs hoses, a new truck. We got a lot of apparatus we're trying to do in the mask. The masks are a big deal. We've been applying for grants for a mask for 3 years. We haven't received it, so we're going to use ARP dollars to get the mask covered so that they can safely fight fires and so they can safely communicate. The biggest issue with me is they weren't able to communicate amongst themselves, and they weren't able to communicate out. So solving the radio problem is a big deal to me. Just having a top-notch fire department with the training that we do is going to be a draw in and of itself. Scott does a fantastic job training. He does want a training facility. That will be another draw. I'm on board with the training facility, trying to get that. Location and funds is very difficult. We do have our first mobile training facility coming. I don't remember when that's going to be delivered. It should be any time. But that's going to offer a new avenue for training for our fire department.
Okay. Clarence?
Well, obviously, pay is always an interesting scenario to bring people in. But I also think that if people want to come to Connersville, if the amenities are here and the interest of living in a city that's a better place to live, I think that helps a lot also. And obviously, we need good firefighters, and we already have good firefighters. And the ones that retire, we got to replace, same way as the police department. So I think if we narrow our focus on wasting tax dollars, we can spend this money elsewhere where it's needed.
Okay. Anything to?
One of the things that we need to focus on with the fire department, and it's one thing Scott and I work diligently on, is our ISO rating. I don't think people understand what the ISO rating does for your insurance policies. Anytime you see an insurance policy drop, which is hard in these times where they're going up, it's because our ISO ratings are dropping. ISO ratings drive your insurance policies. So the more investments we make in dropping our ISO rating, the better it is for everyone's insurance policy, which is not just an attraction for our fire department, it's an attraction for people who want to live here. It really helps our industrial customers. If you have a low ISO rating, it helps your industrial customers with their insurance, which is a big, big deal for your commercial customers.
Clarence?
I don't have any rebuttal on that.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Councilman Werner, this will be for you. The cost of operating the EMS service continue to increase. What can be done to help meet the budget while working with the county?
That's an interesting question. We could drive down fuel prices, and I don't know how you're going to manage that when fuel continues to rise all the time. Always the same scenario is, the budget. And we need to reduce the fat off the budget so we can put it in our emergency services.
Mayor?
We hired a professional consultant who works for major cities, who understands budgets and government finance from front to back. There's no fat. We've trimmed it all out. One of the things we've focused on EMS is how do we improve service without increasing our costs, because it is very expensive to operate an ambulance. We established a non-reverting fund so that we take 10% back. I think we did that when I was on council, so we can start taking money back for repairs and for maintenances. One of the problems, our ambulances are so old. They're requiring a lot of repairs, a lot of maintenances. So that number has gone up. So we took the ARP dollars and we used that to help purchase 2 new ambulances, but they're on order. So that's going to help offset our costs so we can continue to provide good service. We get new ambulances, that's also going to decrease our maintenance costs to give us some more money to operate with. So we strategically used ARP dollars wisely to purchase new ambulances so we can save more money back for other things that we need.
Well, there is fat on the budget because we constantly outsource some of our maintenance problems because we need a good maintenance crew, which apparently is lacking because we outsource our oil service, our maintenance supplies, and just general maintenance on police cars, EMS vehicles. I understand some of those are still breaking down. They're having difficulty with some of that, so we need to look at this more seriously.
I'd like to answer that. We've looked at this very seriously. One thing I love is cost accounting. What does it cost us to do business? One of the things we looked at when we outsourced was what was it currently costing us to do business, to change our own oil? Something as simple as that. And we found the time it was taking to change our oil cost us more than it does to outsource it. Plus, we're taking a benefit to the community, to a business in the community who wants the business. So we looked at the cost accounting of, if we're changing our own oil, does it make sense for us to do that? Does it cost us more money, or is it cheaper to sub that out? Which it is cheaper to sub it out. Secondly, with the ambulances and the fire trucks in particular, those are specialty equipment that require specialty certifications to work on. Not anyone can do that. Just because you're a mechanic doesn't mean you can work on a fire apparatus. We were spending a lot of time trying to figure out problems on fire trucks and ambulances. We were spending days, sometimes weeks, trying to figure it out. When we hired the right company, they would come in a few hours and have it fixed because they know what they're doing. It's not a slam on our guys. It's such a specialty piece of equipment. You really got to know how to work on that. So we were spending more time and more money by not subbing it out. Now when we're subbing it out, it has streamlined our operations. Now we have fire trucks and ambulances, instead of being down for days and weeks, they're down for a few hours and they're back in service. So we looked into the cost accounting side of that and said, you know what? It's more beneficial, it's better on our budget to outsource this than to do it ourselves because we're getting a better product. And now our mechanics have time to work on the stuff that we need worked on through the street department. I mean, they fix everything. So the cost accounting said it's better to do it that way.
You.
Well, he's correct about the fire trucks. They are specialized equipment. They have special pumps on them. The ambulances is the same as the police cars. They can be housed and worked on at our city garage. We have capable people doing that. They just need the proper time and tools.
Yeah. Thank you, gentlemen. We'll move on. Councilman, this is for you next. Equipment within the city. You guys walked right into that one. The idea of a public safety tax has been discussed in the past. Can you explain how this would be used to meet the needs of the city, and are you in favor of its implementation? So this is obviously the question: if it would have already been implemented, how would you use it?
Say that again. I was taking a drink.
Okay. The idea of a public safety tax has been discussed in the past. Can you explain how this would be used, if implemented, to meet the needs of the city, and are you in favor of its implementation?
Am I opening this question?
I believe it was a Clarence, but am I wrong?
I don't know. You're the moderator.
I'm not doing a good job either.
Do you want me to answer?
Yeah.
Well, you know, we only got 13,324 people in the city. So adding more tax to them, I think that's a terrible burden. I understand what the tax is for, and it would help out 911 tremendously. But I think there's other avenues to help out 911 without adding more taxes.
Mayor?
I'm going to have to agree. We already have some of the highest county tax in the state. We have also one of the poorest communities in the state. I think we got some other issues to fix before we go to add another tax. Now, I understand the benefits of adding that tax and what it means for our first responders. I'm first going to try to find other ways, which we've done with ARP dollars and other creative ways, to find ways to fund the departments so that they can work and be more effective and efficient. Again, I know it's like a broken record. We must grow. The population decline is hurting everyone. So putting another tax in place when you're declining population may not be the best idea.
Okay, thank you. Clarence, anything to?
Well, you know, again, that we are one of the highest taxes in the community, in the county, actually. So, you know, there's got to be other ways, and we can't rely on grants and other forms of outside sources all the time. We have to be creative in finding ways to help these places like 911 and in emergency services budgets.
Okay, thank you. Mayor? Okay, moving on. Equipment, this will be for the mayor. Equipment within the city is a constant need of updating. How do you plan to maintain, fund, and future equipment needs of the city? And you've kind of answered that already, but if you want to.
Yeah, we started off by bringing Adam Stone in, our controller, and he builds rotation cycle models and how to fund those and how to finance those. If you look at the tax caps and tax credits and levies and all these things, he talks about things it's very difficult to understand. He understands it like it's second grade math to him. I mean, he's a genius at it. So he is working with every single department, and he looks at and assesses, here's our vehicle needs, here's our equipment needs, here's how we can replace them over time, and he builds a schedule that will long surpass my time administration, that other administrations can follow to help. That way we don't get in the same situation we had with police cars when I had Crown Vics with rust falling off them as they went down the street. I couldn't stand that. It drove me nuts. One of our first goals was let's figure out how to replace these police cars. We used ARP dollars to do that. We have wisely used our budget money to do that. We're looking to lease some because we were on a 18-year cycle on used vehicles. I don't think we can sustain that. So Adam is really working hard on that in order to build a model for every department, not just police and EMS and fire, being parks, every model on every piece of equipment. How do we begin building a replacement cycle with the dollars we have?
Okay. Clarence, anything?
Well, you know, that's an interesting scenario because the last police cars were bought, I brought to the council that they could save $3,000 per car, and we avoided that firm in Kentucky to buy those. Now, the fire chief has went around and looked for different opportunities to buy another truck, and he's explored the cheapest facility that he can buy them from, and fortunately that's here in Connersville. So I think we have to be wise and research what we're buying to get the best deal no matter where it's at.
That's absolutely false. Those cars were not $3,000. I think it ended up being about $500 difference. Chief, you remember? We looked at that. We called them. We got the exact same specs that we priced, and they were about $500 cheaper by the time they got here, coming from, where were they from? Kentucky, Georgia, somewhere.
Kentucky.
So we found a place closer to home that had them, and so it was not $3,000 a car.
Okay. I want to add kind of a bullet point to that question. In terms of equipment that needs to be maintained for this fire department especially, their protective gear, their turnout gear needs to be replaced like every 10 years, and
yes,
helmets and so forth. And then, and this time I'm addressing you to this, Mayor.
Yep.
Bulletproof vests, like I believe they were 5 years. You have to talk to the chief. I'm not 100% sure on that. But those things that are really kind of time sensitive and critical, and as CBA, as you said you tried to get a grant for, are very pricey items, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about the certification. I mean, and there's other things such as contaminants, biohazard materials on the turnout gear, they'd have to replace it. Is there any kind of, what would you do with the current mayor or the current department head for either one of those departments to help prepare for those?
Well, that's exactly what the controller's doing. He's building a model saying, here's every piece of equipment you need, here's a life cycle, here's how you save for it, here's how we fund it. We currently have money in the fire chief's budget for his turnout gears. We're funding that with ARP dollars this year as well, because we had to take a lot of money out of his budget to meet budget. So I said, leave that money there for other stuff. We'll pull out of ARP dollars to do that. So we took ARP dollars to fund his turnout gear, along with his mask and a lot of other things. Same thing with the police. Right now, the grants, most of the vests, if not all the vests, come through grants. They're on a cycle. So fortunately, we have good grants out there for that, but we still want to build a model that says, here's what the piece of equipment is, here's what it's going to take to replace it, here's how long it's going to take to replace it, here's how much money you need to put back for that. And that's what the controller is doing for everybody.
Okay.
Well, like I said, we bought police cars, and the mayor's incorrect. They were $3,000 cheaper. They were 1 year newer. We could use the money that we save on things that we do purchase and utilize them to things that we actually need. We buy such things as trash trucks and many other things that we could look at and operate cheaper than what we are doing now.
I don't even know where to begin on that one. I mean, our trash trucks were constantly breaking down. We had more issues with delaying trash because we didn't have trash trucks. We had broken frames on trucks. We did a study that hadn't been done in 10 years on our trash fees. We are still cheaper than anywhere around. And it's not to make money, but we also have to provide a service. So we have 2 trash trucks that when one is running, the other is being maintained, because we had a newer trash truck that ran all day, every day. It never got maintained and it wore out. And that's the problems we had. We tried to rebuild one. It still didn't work because they were so wore out. So we ended up purchasing 2 new ones so we can maintain that service with newer trucks that weren't breaking down every day. You know how many mornings I got a phone call from Brad, no trash today. Trash truck's down. I was like, again, you're kidding me. We got to pick up trash. So in order to be efficient, we ended up purchasing new trucks so we could pick up everyone's trash in a timely manner.
There is no scenario of that. We're not the cheapest. Liberty gets their trash picked up for $9. Carmel gets their trash picked up for $9. Batesville does the same thing. They all outsource their trash pickup. They let somebody else handle that expense instead of putting it on the burden of the taxpayers. That's been presented to the council as well.
Okay. Yes, it has, and the quotes we got were not anywhere near that. They were a lot higher. And the quotes you have now, and people in the county who get it, is a lot higher than that. They're paying more than double what we're paying right now. And so we did look at outsourcing it. But you lose a lot when you outsource. You lose the transfer station. Look how cheap it is to dump a transfer station. We would lose that. They would take control of that and price it. They control the pricing after that. We never have a council decision on pricing. We never do a trash rate study to see what the costs are so we can make sure that our numbers are break even and we're sustaining our equipment. So, and the other communities, if you look at what we're getting now versus what it would cost the same service, it is nowhere near the $9. So what these other communities are getting is probably not the service we're getting here. I've called some of those communities and those numbers are not accurate. So that's not an accurate statement whatsoever. So we can outsource it and lose all that control. Heavy trash pickup would go away. That's not part of it. So there's a lot of things that would go away, including picking up your yard waste. That would not be part of it. Our compost site down there, which is free to dump, would go away. All that's included in that price. No one else has that but us.
Okay. This is the last response to that.
Well, that's partially incorrect. Because technically speaking, there's an ordinance requiring service at the transfer station to be charged for dumping limbs down there, but they don't charge. So there is an ordinance that requires the charge to be levied on all that dumping. And the fees that I told you about was including recycles and trash and heavy pickup, not to mention the fact that the ballpark figure I was given by 2 leading trash facilities around here was $13 to $14, including recycles.
Okay.
Who? I'd like to know, because we've talked to everyone around here and it was not that.
Best Way and Rumpke.
We're talking Best Way right now. I'm not getting those numbers.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. It's like you guys have read my mind or something here. And some special help from upstairs. The recycle pickup has been suspended within the city. Is this something that you would be in favor of bringing back, and why or why not? It's for the mayor. Recycling? Yes.
We have recycling. It is drop-off right now. The world of recycling is changing literally every month. Councilman Barrett's working on this very diligently. We're finding new information on an article just came out this last week, where we're finding out that most plastics are just going straight to the landfill. Our tipping fee for recycling is, I believe, $86 a ton, where trash is, and we'll get this wrong, around 36. Is that correct, Brad? So recycling is twice expensive to dispose of than regular trash. So our recycling program, we still have the drop-off. We are still trying to get pickup going again. The problem is we want to make sure that if we're paying for recycling, that it is truly being recycled. And we've got the products in there that we can send to recycling, because if you have a product that gets put in your recycling that is not recyclable, it automatically goes to landfill and they charge us an extra fee for that product. So we want to be, A, make sure we're getting the right products, and B, make sure it is being recycled. And right now, it's changing monthly. Several communities have shut the recycling programs down. They're starting to pick them back up because the rules are changing on them. So we're going to start an education campaign here shortly, which is why we're talking to the trash companies now. We're going out for quote, trying to get better quotes on all this stuff because of the world of recycling is changing. And we want to make sure that when we do start picking recycling back up, that everyone is well educated on what you can and cannot put in your recycling container.
Councilman.
There's a lot of correction in that. As Councilwoman Barrett will find out, if she hasn't already found out, there's 7 kinds of plastic. If you mix any of those plastics together, they go in a landfill. And if they're put in an improper bag, they go in a landfill. So recycling has to be handled with care, really, because we have paper, we have plastic, cardboard, all that actually has to be separated to be true recycling. So, like the mayor said, it's a nightmare. And I know some people want it, but it ends up in the trash, in the landfills. And we have to do something different about landfills, but that's out of our ballpark.
Mayor? Councilman?
I don't have any more than that.
Okay. This is for you, Councilman Werner. Throughout the city, there are many unkept and abandoned properties. What can be done to address these issues?
Well, that's a good subject. There's a lot of this abandoned properties owned by outside companies and private owners. I live in Florida and they're all over the country, California. We need to look at our ordinance, and I think we need to put more teeth in that. The code enforcer, he's going around and doing a lot of work on this. We have to get the police department involved in this as well. And the people. The people have to help out too. We can't rely on our law enforcement agencies to do all this. Your neighbor, if your neighbor needs help them pick it up. There's facilities for us to dump it in. So I think we need to look at our ordinance as we did one other time and put more teeth in it for the code enforcer so we can get things done in a quicker manner.
Our ordinances don't necessarily match state IC code, which is the problem. The city attorney and I sat through a discussion about a month ago from the State Attorneys Association and through AIM on this exact topic. It is not an easy topic to deal with. It is very difficult with abandoned properties on our legal ways of how do we proceed with these. I'm not even going to say even after that meeting there's a clear path going forward on that because it is very unclear. But the last thing we want to do is enforce a city ordinance that violates the state IC code, and I'm not going to do that. So we are on this topic. We are working diligently on this topic. We still don't have all the answers. It's the same thing with our ordinance violations before we had the ordinance officer in place. There was a lot of confusion on how to deal with those. We have that solved now through the court system. The same way with abandoned properties. As we go forward on this, and Councilman's right. I mean, a lot of people who live out of town own these properties, and they are a nightmare to try to locate. Nick works diligently trying to find people, and sometimes it's just a dead end. So there are some things that we're looking to do. We don't have all the answers on that yet. Hopefully we'll get more clarification on our process and how we can move forward with that. But that's why we have the city attorney working with the state attorneys on it.
And some of these properties that we have in this community, I probably shouldn't mention locations, but they're owned by local people, and all they care about is the dollar they're getting from from the rent. So I think they should have more courtesy and respect for the city of Connersville and let their properties get like that, even if they're renting it to somebody outside. They should look at their own property with respect and pride, and I don't know how you enforce that.
Okay, thank you. Moving on. Mayor, the city started a project to move the current Babe Ruth complex some time ago to River's Edge Park, located off of Veterans Memorial Drive. It appears as the project is on hold or abandoned. As mayor, are you in favor of completing this, and how can the project be funded?
Yes, I'm in favor of completing that. I grew up playing baseball in the old flood area. I mean, that's just where we played. We do want to get out of there. River's Edge was started, and I'm not for sure how the project was sold to the community. I know that a lot of people sat in my office thinking that once the building was built, they'd be playing baseball there. It's still a $5 million project plus to get kids playing baseball out there. That's the real problem. The secondary problem is that project they got a grant for to build everything was not completed properly. We're still trying to get an absolute number on that, but we can't even apply for a grant yet until we get those problems taken care of. We think it's anywhere between $75,000 and $100,000 to finish what was started so we can actually apply for more grants, because the DNR is cut off from grants because it's not completely finished. So that's why we want to take some of the HELP grant money and get that problem solved so we can apply for more grants to hopefully finish the project. We've also got some ideas on how to finish that. Like I said, it's a $5 million project. There's $2.5 million worth of dirt moving. That is my background. I've got some ideas on how to do that with the community to really offset some of the costs. I don't know how that would work yet, but the community day of sharing gave me a lot of ideas on how to get the dirt moved. It's still going to cost money for renting equipment and gas and everything, but I really would like to have a community week of dirt moving out there with all my old excavating friends and people in business that can go out there and run equipment and move the dirt. I think that would be great. Is that possible? I don't have any idea. But that's something we'd like to do. But the first step is get the help dollars, the help grant monies to fix what problems we have so we can start enjoying at least the playground and everything we have there. Outside of that, it's still a $5 million problem. And that's the real issue. It's a $5 million problem.
Councilman?
Well, I can't see it as a $5 million problem to start with. There's a lot of people, like the mayor said, there's a lot of people out here that wants to help and get that program going and running and have the children out there playing ball. There's an amphitheater out there. There's a playground out there that's not being used. We have no issues that I know of talking to DNR with DNR. We've got a launch ramp out there for canoes or light watercraft, and we got walking paths out there, and they're all in compliance so far talking to DNR. So that part is water under the bridge, so to speak. There's a lot of volunteers out here that wants to help and like I said, get that up and running. There is some ADA problems out there if we want to apply for a grant, but if the city and volunteers want to do it on their own, they can solve these problems. And I'm confident that we can get this done.
We do have an issue with the DNR on that problem, on that issue.
Done?
Sorry.
Were you done?
Yes, I'm done.
Sorry. We cannot get a DNR grant because we have a DNR issue. The DNR issued that grant to get the playground and everything and the building done, and we can no longer apply for a DNR grant because of that until we get those resolved. So it is an ADA issue around the barrier, around the playground, the amphitheater, ADA parking, and a trail or a path around the building. So it's quite extensive work. We do have a plan to try to get volunteers to go forward, but it's still going to be, it's a lot of work. Even with volunteers, that's still a lot of work to get that taken care of. So we need to get an estimated cost, which we're working on, is get the estimated cost. We want to use help dollars to get that going so we can apply for grants. And if we can get volunteers, that'd be good. But that is a huge task to get that facility up and running.
Okay.
I have nothing to add.
Okay, moving on. This will be for you, Councilman Warner. Could you explain what the edit tax is and what it's used for and how the city currently uses their portion? The edit tax is scheduled to end in 2027 because the courthouse should be paid off, that should be paid off. In order to continue its utilization, there would need to be a new project to fund. Do you have any projects in mind? And that's a major infrastructure project that I'm talking about.
Well, I don't have any major products in mind at this time. With the taxes ending, that's why I say we end up have to find other revenues and other avenues to resource funding.
Mayor?
Yes, the edit tax is $1.068 million. That's what the courthouse collects. The city gets $140,000 of that. A project that could be identified would be River's Edge with that, but we have to wait till this bond payment is done, which the time was 2027. I'm sorry?
2027.
2027, that's a bond payment. Once that comes off, that $140,000 would fund almost $2 million towards River's Edge payment. So if we had to borrow money to bond towards River's Edge, that $140,000 would be almost $2 million. You're about $70,000 a payment, $60,000, $70,000 a year payment on $1 million. So that $140,000 could be turned right back around in 2027 to help fund a bond payment for $2 million of River's Edge. That would be a huge win to get River's Edge going. And I'd love to partner with the county on that.
I don't have anything to add.
Okay. Mayor, this is something that really doesn't cause a lot of problems in town. The CSX Railroad Bridge over Central Avenue is continually being struck by tall vehicles. What are your ideas to prevent future collisions? Chief Polos could post an officer out there and whack him on the head.
I saw an article someone posted in the paper, I think it was 1940, top headline was, "Bridge gets hit again." It's happened for quite a long time. We have tried to cut back trees, trying to open it up. We've added more signs, bigger signs, so they can see it. We've added lights on it so they can see it at night. You got flashing lights on it. There's signs 3 or 4 blocks back that is saying, hey, low clearance ahead, and they still hit it. And I really don't know the reason why. There's a lot of reasons why. So what we started doing was we engaged some people who, they drove trucks for many years, and then they was an instructor for a truck driving school. So the person knows what they're doing. And they said that's not the problem. There's nothing you can do. They once had put over low hangings pieces that will hit the trucks. They said, please do not do that. That's the worst thing you can do. We're like, okay. Once they give his reason why, I was like, coming from your perspective, that makes sense to me. What if we paint the ground? He goes, do not paint the ground. They do not look down. They need to look up. The signs are the best placements. We looked at moving the truck route to Western Avenue. That's a $24 million project, and that would be all on us. The state would give us signs and markings. They would update some lights and crosswalks and say, it's yours to maintain. By the way, you got to maintain it to our standards. So anytime we go to maintain that road, it has to be their standards. So we looked at, okay, what's the cost to put that road back to NDOT standards? And it was around $19 million, and there was like $4 or $5 million on infrastructure for the drainage and sewer and water and stuff that had to be updated. So it's around a $24 million project, and I just cannot see that. We've tried to talk to the state different times about putting a direct route from 70 all the way through. That's not on their radar, and they said even if it was, you're a 20-year project out, but they're not even considering that. So really, the only option we have is to light it up like we've done, put more signage like we've done. One of the problems we've had is every time it gets hit, I usually go up to the officer and I go, do they speak English? And the answer is no, they do not very well. So I don't know what the answer is for that. Other than if you're driving a truck, which I used to have a CDL, had it for many years, you got to pay attention to what you're doing. You got to know your truck route. The atlases you carry tell you low clearance. Ours got added to a digital atlas, which was not on there before. We got the state to add it to a digital atlas, so every driver who uses driving software sees a low clearance ahead and it detours them away from it. So the the only answer for now is to just continue doing what we're doing, is make it as visible as possible.
Well, you know, part of what the mayor says is correct, but part of it is incorrect. Back when Leonard Urban ran the city, he looked at changing the whole truck route over to Western Avenue. The whole State Route 1 over to Western Avenue. And today's prices would be $22 million, our part, because they would have to redo the whole Western Avenue to their standards. I worked with the mayor on a program to change the truck route, just to change the truck route to Western Avenue. And it would cost us $0. The state would provide the signs. We don't have to repave the road to their standards. It's our street. We maintain it as our street, just as it is. They've told me that many a times. I've asked them many a times about that. Do we have to repave the road to your standards? No, it's your street. It'll maintain your street. We just changed the route over to Western Avenue. We'll even help you with your traffic lights to get them synchronized, because you don't have anybody here that synchronizes traffic lights. At first, the route they wanted to do was cross Western Avenue, and we changed that to 5th Street, because down to 3rd Street, because Western and 5th Street was too tight of a turn for trucks to make. So we went down to 44 3rd Street, which would be a better avenue. It's 6 turns the way it is now. It'd be 3 turns if we rerouted the trucks. Would it stop all the trucks from hitting that? No, but I'd say 95% of it.
No, the one phrase in that whole contract that caused me to shut it down was we must maintain it to their standards, to NDOT standards. It's our street, it's a city street, but since it's a truck route, when we update it, it has to be to their standards. That gets expensive. I even had an engineer review it to make sure, am I reading this correctly? Is this true and accurate? If we do this, is this what's it going to cost? They reviewed it and said, yeah, you're exactly right, and this is what's going to cost. So the cheap answer is, yeah, they would give it to us right away. We wouldn't have any cost until we went to maintain that road. And then it gets expensive, until the road breaks down. We did a core sample. I asked utilities, I said, please go do a core sample so I can see how thick the asphalt is. I don't even know if it's thick enough to be a truck route. It's not. So that means it's going to break down even faster when you put more heavy truck traffic on that. Local trucks, we use it, they're fine. It's still breaking down because of it, but it's a good benefit for our local trucks. You put a major truck route on that, we'll be tearing that street up in no time. And then we have to do it to NDOT standards. So yeah, short term might be an easy fix. Long term, it's going to be expensive for somebody.
Clarence?
That's not a correct statement. It's still our street. The mayor asked him about it and said, we don't care how you pave it. If you mill it, you can mill it. You pave it to your standards. That street's been used since probably 1948, I believe the figure was, for truck traffic, because we had H.H. Robinson, we had D&M over there, we had Green Manufacturing, we had Stance over there, which we still have. We have Roots Dresser, Howden Industries. There was truck traffic over there much heavier than what we have today.
Moving on. I swear you guys got into my computer and read my questions. If you're just going like right after. The idea of moving State Road 1 from Park Road to Western Avenue has been discussed in the past. What are your thoughts of this and how could it be accomplished if you're in favor of this? So I think we pretty much covered it, but.
Yes, but that's different than what we were trying to do. And I think both of us were on the same page when we were looking at Western Avenue. We didn't want to move the state route away from Park Road. I don't think we're on the same page with that, because we wanted to make that a business truck route.
Only.
We didn't want to remove the state route because you got businesses that locate.
No, it says the idea of moving State Road 1 from Park Road to Western has been discussed in the past.
Yeah. But we didn't want to do that because business is located on this road here because it is a state route.
Right.
So we didn't want to move state route. We just wanted to put the trucks over there. I think both of us were on the same page on that one.
Okay.
He's right about that. We weren't going to do it. The past mayor was going to, he entertained the idea of moving the whole State Route 1 to Western Avenue.
Maybe that's where that came from.
That's where that came from the past.
And there's a misunderstanding, therefore, that
Okay.
you want to move the whole thing.
No, I just wanted to make it a business truck route.
Okay.
They like the idea, but
It's a lot easier for the trucks, I can tell you that.
Okay. So, Mayor, we'll go on to this question for you. What are your goals for the future of Connersville?
yes. My goals is to continue to invest in placemaking, continue the growth. I read a huge list of things we've worked on the last 3 years to help instill growth in our community. I look at my administration as laying the foundation. That's an old construction background, I can't help it. We build the foundation so that when we're done, someone can build a strong house and it can continue to be built and continue to last for years. So will we see the fruit of everything we're doing now? No. We're seeing a lot of fruit now that we weren't anticipating, but our goal is to build a strong foundation so that generations to follow can be successful and our community can thrive. I've got one goal every day when I wake up, and that is how can we thrive as a community?
Councilman Moore?
Well, this is always true, obviously. I think transparency in departments would help us a lot to help us grow. I think a youth council for the city of Connersville would help us with guidelines on what the youth wants for this community and would help guide us in the manner of acquiring more people to come here. I also believe that if we take care of Connersville, give it some TLC like it needs. I mean, this community has given a lot of life to a lot of people in this city. So I think it's time to give back to the city.
Okay. Anything you want to?
I think we've proven ourselves in what we're doing with how to change the community through the projects we are currently doing. There's a lot of projects we didn't mention that are being completed as we're going through the program. I didn't mention it from the beginning, but we are just completing projects. We're starting projects, and we are seeing them through.
I don't have anything to add to that.
Okay, thank you. Last question, gentlemen. This will be for Clarence, Councilman Werner. Since I first started serving as Republican County Chair of Fayette County, the term Rhino, Republican in name only, has been a real hot button issue to some, not all, to some. Clarence, you recently switched from the Democratic Party to the Republican Party. Chad, I believe that you have always been a Republican. If the two of you wouldn't mind, please briefly share what makes you a Republican. What are your core values, beliefs that identify you as a Republican?
Do you want me to go first?
Yes, sir.
Well, the reason why I switched, I've seen some failures in the other party that I didn't agree with. And on that note, I also feel that 60-some% of this community has switched from Democrat to Republican. So I think they see a change in how the cities are ran by Republicans. I think they see a change in how the community is ran by Republicans. And I think that assists this community to be a better community.
Okay. Well, I don't know if there's really any debate on that one.
I'm sorry?
I don't know. No, go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm ahead of myself. Apologize.
Well, I can't say we always grew up a Republican because I remember growing up in a household that was Democrat. And we were watching the debate with Ronald Reagan. I remember I was just having this discussion the other day with some of my department heads. And then I remember after the debate with Ronald Reagan, I turned and looked at my dad and I go, why are you a Democrat? We don't believe anything they're talking about. And he said, you know, you're right. And actually my dad switched to a Republican Party after that. The values that have been instilled in me growing up through my Christianity, through my faith, through my ethics, through my growth, on my work standards, all aligns with the Republican Party. I believe firmly that you are responsible for yourself. And if you want change, you must change first. I am very goal-oriented. And that goal, the goals I set, creates that change. When I first took office, I got chastised very heavily for a goal I set. And I was very vocal about it, and I did it on purpose. In fact, some of the council sitting here is probably going to laugh when I say this. One of the very first goals I established for the community was for me. Because I said, if we want to change as a community and I want to show personal responsibility, I'm setting the first goal. And the first goal was, anybody remember, council? I want to lose weight. Well, 3 years later and 53 pounds less, that's a goal. It took me 3 years, but it's a goal. And I drive myself every day by establishing goals. I keep 2 books on my desk every day. I open them, I look at them. It's a list of goals. And it's what are we getting accomplished? And that's what drives me every single day. But those are the values that instilled in me when I was young and have followed the Republican Party all the way through.
Thank you, gentlemen. We have closing statements. Councilman Werner, we'll start with you.
Well, the reason why I'm running for mayor is the fact that I've seen a lot of waste being on the council. I see there's not a lot of determination on finding the best product for the best price. And I don't agree with that. I agree with the fact that we need good working people in a community that can maintain the equipment that we have. And I know we have some good people in all the departments that we have, but we need to have them step up to the plate and do a better job at what they do. And I think transparency in all the departments is going to help this, because everybody will understand what they need so we can help them do their job better.
Well, first of all, I want to thank everyone for coming out this evening, and thank everyone at home for watching live, taking time out of your busy schedule to learn more about your candidates for mayor. I encourage you to look around our community at all the new growth we are currently seeing, new projects on the horizon, and a vision of where we want to go. We must reverse the course of the population decline, but know that it will not happen if we do not take a proactive approach on growth. The office of the mayor is someone who has a vision for growth and a strong desire to develop and implement a strategy to see it done. The list I read in the beginning is a foundation we have already laid for growth. I encourage everyone to please get out and vote for me as mayor to continue that growth. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. I really appreciate your time here to answer the questions. None of these gentlemen had questions ahead of time. You would think they did, by the way they kind of set questions up. But I appreciate and respect the time that they're putting forth into running for office. Whether one of you wins or loses, it's a great sacrifice. And from my perspective, I respect it and appreciate it. I know running for office is, personal experience is always not easy. It's not fun, time consuming. It's even more so for mayor than anything else. But I would encourage everybody to get out and vote. And, you know, if you're not sure about which candidate you may want to, talk to them personally. I'm sure they'll both make themselves readily available to you for questions to be answered. And again, I'd like to thank Channel 3 for sponsoring this, putting this on tonight, and having to me a real debate. And I have nothing else to say.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.